Okay, antitrust, and you said what? This is antitrust compliance brochure prepared by the National Association of Realtors with the purpose to assist in applying principles in your individual office when confronting issues raised by the presence of new business models offered by competitors. Now, everybody knows that you can't go and say certain things to a home seller. You can't say you must list this. The board says we've got to list the houses at 6% or 7%. You can't say all these companies in our area agree that you've got to sell your house, you've got to list it at whatever percentage. And so that's the old rule, and everybody should know that. But now with the change of new business models offered by competitors, there's some new applications to the rules. Now, at this point, if we were live, I'd ask you, can you give me the name of some new business models? It's usually a pretty hard question. If you have a perspective like mine, starting in 1978, a new business model might be something like RE/MAX. Not a new name, not a new business, but a new business model depending on your perspective. What makes them new? Well, in a traditional real estate company, which is all that existed before RE/MAX, or maybe some similar things came along in the 70s, if you did well, then the broker did well. And if you did poorly, the company did poorly. You had no expense, you had no monthly overhead, you didn't have to pay for a desk, but if you got a commission check, then you would split it with your broker 50-50, maybe 60-40. And so the more houses you sold, the happier the broker got, the happier you got, the happier the broker got, the healthier everybody, the better everybody did. And the corollary to that is if your business went down, the broker's business went down, and then RE/MAX came along, and maybe some other companies similar to that. Realty Executives, perhaps. What happened there? Well, the agent signed a contract agreeing to pay, let's say, $1,000 a month for his monthly desk costs. But he got 95, let's say 100%. Most of them don't go that high, but let's just use, he got 100% of his commission check. So if you did really, really well, you did really, really well. The broker was happy when he got his rent check. If you did really, really poorly, the broker did okay, so long as he got his rent check. There was not, you were not necessarily equally yoked. So that was a new business model. Another one a few years ago, a company called Abana came to town, came to Birmingham, and they advertised heavily on the TV, offering a 4% commission. That was a change. That was a new business model. We'll probably talk about that some more perhaps in a minute. Today there are other models that I've heard about, some of which I haven't seen. There's Crawford Realty. There's a company called Adutri Realty, Zip Realty, all which I believe is a company that they call Clicks No Bricks. They're an online presence only. They do not have an office where you can walk in and do business. So why are these new business models an issue? Well, mainly you've got a very competitive business that we're in. You've got the National Association of Realtors membership is up from 800,000 last decade to 1.4 million in the last 10 years. We're down just a little bit from 1.4 million in 2006, but a huge increase, almost a double in the number of agents. Membership in the Birmingham Association of Realtors went from 3,531 agents in 2004 to 4,384 last year. What's that? Roughly a 20% or 20 or so percent increase just in the last year. Let me give you numbers as I record this in December of 2007. In 1 year, 2 years, MLS had 3,000, let's say 3,100 agents 2 years ago, and we're at 3,760 2 years later. Again, almost a 20% increase in the number of agents in just 2 years. So it's a very competitive business, a lot of people getting into it. There are a multitude of firms that are active in the business. And then there's the entrepreneurial spirit of the people who make up the bulk of the industry. We are pretty much entrepreneurial. You've got to be if you're going to get in the real estate business. You don't have a steady income. You wake up every day, you're unemployed, and you've got to have an entrepreneurial streak, a willingness to shave the boss, so to speak, and the courage and the ability to make something happen on your own. Last, this is a relatively easy business to get into. It may not feel that way after sitting through discs and teaching like mine, but and what you had to do to sit for the real estate exam, but it is an easy business to get into. There are businesses behind me where I speak now where you have to have a huge capital investment. You've got to have money to buy inventory. You might have a huge investment in other business. Maybe it's to go to law school or into medicine. You've got to have a huge investment in terms of time, probably some debt that you've got to pay off from school. We don't have that kind of investment getting into the real estate business. So that's why these are issues. There have been other changes in the business. Again, remembering from a long-term perspective, one change might be that when I was a baby agent, we didn't sell for sale by owners. It was very, very rare, and if we did, there was no co-oping a sale or splitting what we call splitting a fee, co-oping a sale with a for sale by owner. When I say co-oping a sale, I mean we share the commission. If I have the listing and you have the buyer and I'm offering 6% commission, I might pay you 3% and I'd keep 3%. That's co-op. But we didn't go offer the for sale by owner seller a 3% commission as if I was co-oping with you, because it's not the same. We didn't do it. And then last, we really didn't cut commissions unless we agreed to do it together. And I will give examples for instance, I'll read some examples of where that has changed recently. You know, I pulled up 3 closings when I teach this class live, and I've got a closing where Realty South made 3%. And Keller Williams agent took 2.5% on a $115,000 sale. That's the kind of thing that just would not have happened years ago. So that's a change. It's a new model. I got a closing here where One Remax First Choice. We took 2.5% on a $485,000 house, and they took 0.0095%. That's a very small percentage. They got 100% of it though. In other words, we made $12,125. We had to split that, but while their agent made 100% of $460.75. That's a change. That would have not happened years ago. Here's another one where, again, we took 2.5% on a $450,000 sale, and another Remax took 1.4%. The difference there, $11,250 versus $6,300. That would not have happened. And that's a change. And perhaps they're doing that because they have to. Perhaps they're doing that because, well, we're going to do this one for next to nothing if you'll buy something from me on the other side. Regardless of what the reason behind it is, that's a novelty. We have another one here that I could, if we were live class, I could show you where a competitor is offering a $99 fee for service. $99. My question is there anything wrong with you offering to sell yourself for $99? The answer is no. There's nothing wrong with it. It may not be a smart business practice, but that's a decision that they're going to make. But it's not illegal. There's nothing wrong with it per se. Let me go back to one. What do you think? What do you think the impact was when one of our competitors advertised heavily on TV, offering at 4% commission? You know, there was a time there when this competitor came to town, and you could not turn on the TV without seeing this sports guy doing the TV ad offering 4% commission, and it was blanketing the airwaves. I'd ask you to think about this for a second. What do you think? How do you think our agents reacted? What do you think they found? What do you think that competitor's agents found? Well, I'll tell you that our agents were panicked at first. It was a reaction like, we'll never work in this business again. We've got to meet them. This is bad. We're going to be shut out of the marketplace. But that was not what happened. We held firm, having been through this before, having seen this sort of thing happen in various iterations over previous couple decades or so. We held firm. We stayed, and they said, "Well, we're going to lose business." And we stayed where we were, did what we did, they did what they did. And that brings me to the second question: what did our agents find? I remember them coming to me and saying, we were right. We are losing business. But here's the business we've lost. We've lost the for sale by owners and the people who really didn't want to list with us to begin with, but they would have grudgingly, and they would have always trying to cut our commission, and we've lost those people. And by the way, just as a sales tip, if a seller's not happy with you at the time you list the property, that ought to be your honeymoon with a seller. Everything's great when you first list the house, at least for a period of weeks, maybe a month or so. But at some point later on, it might get tough. But if they're coming at you wanting you to cut your commission early on, when you've just listed the property, you've got a problem right there. And you may be better off just throwing the little fish back, giving that listing back to the seller, referring them to the company who'll do it for less. But we lost that business, and our agents, I remember the guy saying, "Well, it's okay. That's not really the business we want to get anyway." What did their agents find? Well, I love the anecdote I heard when one of their agents brought us an offer, and she said, she told our agent, she said, "Boy, I love selling your listings." She said, "Why is that?" She says, "Well, because I get to split a bigger fee." Kind of common sense. Which brings me to a question I always ask in the live class. Do you know how to become a millionaire in the real estate brokerage business? Do you know how to become a millionaire owning a real estate company? The answer to that question is you become a millionaire by beginning as a multimillionaire. I messed my own joke up. That was a joke. Pause and laugh. Okay. Back to the material. You're going to have to learn how to address price competition with your buyers, or rather with your sellers, maybe with your buyers also. Now, your listing price being defined as what the price you are willing to work for. That price has been historically handled in one place, usually the kitchen table. You go in there, you list the house, you tell the seller you cover the listing, what you're going to do, and what you think the price ought to be. You get that part hammered out, and your commission is what it is. And if they ask you about it, it was handled right there, and usually it was not a big deal, and it was over. But I think a time is coming where you're going to have to be able to justify your commission with not only the seller but with the buyer, and explain why you're worth more than maybe what the low-priced competitor down the street is willing to do the work for. You will always have a seller come to you and say, "Look, so-and-so at Brand X said they would do it for whatever." I learned as an agent, when they would ask me what my commission was, I would say, "Well, our commission's 7%. Now, you can find people who would do it for 6. If you look around, you can probably find people who do it for 5 or something, and I would explain the pros and cons of that. That's how I'd forestall the objection rather than waiting for it. I just told them that stuff, and most of the times that worked to get it out on the table. And these days, you will find people quickly who will go to 5 and maybe even lower, depending on how desperate they are to get the business. And you've got to be able to answer and forestall the objections, and you've got to have several different ways of doing it. I love the trainer, Howard Brinton, who used a technique he called moving into the objection. He did not wait for the objection, and when the seller would say, well, Howard, our commission's negotiable. And Howard would say, "Yes, Mr. Seller, commissions are negotiable. 6, 7, 8, stop me when we're done negotiating, 9, 10. Now, when I tell that in the class, there's usually some laughter in there, because, and that's typically the way most sellers are going to respond. There's going to be either a smile or some laughter, and you be quiet then. You say that, and you let it go. In a negotiating situation, usually the next person that speaks is the one that loses. So you leave it there. If they laugh, it's sort of like saying, "Okay, I'm going along with you there." But if the seller does not respond the way you hopefully did, you better have at least maybe 2 or 3 other ways of responding to the commission objection problem. And you've got to be prepared to overcome at least one no, preferably several more.